Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from HSH Nordbank New York branch and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Greenberg Traurig LP, Allied Partners, the Moynihan Group. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Antares Real Estate, Arbor Realty Trust, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Essex Capital Partners, Fremont Investment and Loan, Massey Knakal Realty Services, Muss Development LLC, Rosenthal & Rosenthal Inc., Signature Bank, Stonehenge Partners, Swig Equities, the Engel Burman Group, the Wyckoff Group, Titan Capital, YL Real Estate Developers.
Welcome to the Stoller Report. This is Michael Stoller. Hard to believe, but everybody wants to live in Lower Manhattan. Lower Manhattan has definitely risen. I mean, in 2001, right after 9/11, people were fleeing Lower Manhattan, and today, more and more people are renting and buying apartments in Lower Manhattan. I'm fortunate today to have the guy who's lending on them, the guys who are developing on them, to tell us what's happening in Lower Manhattan. I'd like to introduce my guest, James Burman, Senior Vice President of Helaba Bank. A hella bank, okay? Chris Daly, President of the Shodrick Organization. And last but not least, Larry Davis, President of SDS Investments. So, you're the 800-pound gorilla. 3,100 apartments? 12 projects? I mean, is there anybody who can compete with you?
I hope not, but there are other lenders that are lending in Lower Manhattan as well.
Not as good.
Not as good, thank you. But we have had great success in what we feel have been phenomenal projects, both condominium and rental, and now part retail in some of them as well. And we're hoping that that will continue.
When did your bank really get involved in making that commitment to Lower Manhattan?
Well, we probably started, I would say, about 2 years ago when we started to look at the first transactions in Lower Manhattan. We were involved at 63 Wall Street on a conversion deal there. And then in Battery Park, we've been pretty active as well. But really, it was probably sort of early 2005, late 2004.
Chris, Jamie happens to be your banker in Battery Park, and also on the other side of Battery Park. So why don't you tell us what you're doing on your two properties?
Well, in Battery Park, we're building River House, 260-unit condominium. It's the greenest building in Manhattan. It gets
for my audience, explain what the greenest building in Manhattan means.
Well, there's an agency that's privately controlled called LEEDS, and it certifies buildings on their green content. And our building has this extraordinary array of green technologies that are installed in. Extra glass, so the panes of glass, one part of the building has a triple pane window system that actually has filtered air in between the panes of glass to stop heat and cooling loss. We have filtered the air, so in your apartment, your two-bedroom apartment, we'll filter the air in your apartment once every 3 hours. So we'll actually suck the air out, bring it down to the basement, cleanse it, and push it back up. And we'll bring fresh air in off on the roof. We take the water and cleanse your water before it goes into your pipes. We also take doing something kind of interesting with the kitchen waste. So your kitchen sink, your normal water, wherever it runs, goes into the basement. We purify it, and then we use it to filter and water the plants in the rest of the building. So our entire roofs are green roofs, meaning planted materials. And we have actual sprinklers on the roof that go off with this water that's already been treated from the kitchen sink. So it's pretty interesting. We also do, we have turbines, we have photovoltaic cells. So it is the greenest building in New York City.
And so that's how many units?
260. We've been selling since September. David Rockwell designed the building. Polshik did the skin. It's right on the park, and it's on something called Rockefeller Park, which is the northern end of Battery Park, closer to Tribeca. And 80% of the units have water views.
Right, and besides having water views, if you work in the World Financial Center, you couldn't be much closer.
Right.
You can drop out over there overnight.
Yeah.
And what are you doing over there in Lower Manhattan now?
We're developing a building on the corner of William and Beaver Streets, which is known as the William Beaver House. It's a 47-story, 320-unit luxury condominium project.
You have Andre Balazs.
We
what
do.
is this?
Andre is our partner, is a co-developer, and our idea there was to morph the best of luxury apartment condominium living with his experience as a kind of cool, hip hotelier. So the base of our building is filled with amenities and at some level resembles a hotel lobby. You walk in, and in most apartment houses, you kind of go in, you get your mail, you go upstairs, and that's the end of your day. When you walk into the William Beaver House, there's a communal, we call it a conversation pit, with a fireplace where you can meet a friend, you can meet someone else from the building, and then you have a choice to just walk a few steps and go into a restaurant that's going to be operated by Andre and Giorgio DeLuca, who's formerly of Dean and DeLuca, who's an excellent restaurateur in West Soho. And our building, as an example, will have room service there. So if you're a Goldman guy coming off work and it's 10 o'clock at night, you obviously don't feel like cooking, and you can call ahead and say, look, send up a couple of burgers to the apartment. It's all taken care of. So we're trying to merge and really play to what we perceive young people's lifestyles are, which is that they work a lot and don't have a lot of extra time.
Are you gearing the units, because I think I'll go back to Chris and then we'll talk to Jamie on this. Are you gearing that to the single person or the small family?
Small family or single, or also we've had a lot of interest because of the Balazs brand from overseas investors, both European and Latin American, who are desirous of owning a piece of Manhattan, who might come here 2 or 3 times a year, and instead of paying for a hotel, which are obviously very expensive at this point, they want a pied-à-terre, and they want it in an emerging area where there's the perception that there will be capital appreciation because this neighborhood is really, it's on the rise.
And what do units sell for per square foot?
We're at about $1,400 per square foot. We've just opened 2 months ago, and we're 15% sold. And we're having very strong response, good traffic, both locally in the immediate market, because as you've said, with some of the projects even that Jamie has financed, there are a lot of renters in the market. We view those rental buildings as incubators. There are people that live down there, they like it, they're close to work, they enjoy Battery Park City, or they enjoy South Street Seaport, and now that there's a new construction high-rise going up, they're making the decision to check that out, and maybe this is a place we want to spend a few more years.
So in a way, it could be the starter house, which is I think a lot of people have done originally in Battery Park. When Steve Witkoff's been on my show, he said that was the entree in. You were able to go in there. You did 15 Broad, and 15 Broad when Shia was been on the show. Hey, those apartments, the initial prices were really reasonable. So it's the entree, and somebody who may have been renting at 63 Wall. Will go over here and so on. Now, Battery Park City, you're more of a family, aren't you? Wouldn't you say?
We have a lot of big units, 3 bedrooms and above, probably about 40% of the building. The thing that's surprising for us, and Jamie knows this, we're getting the suburbanites coming back into the city who are keeping their houses, moving back into the city, and trying it out, acclimate to the city for a year or two. We have empty nesters coming in. I have couples just married, no children, single people, first investment. So we were really designing the building towards families and mostly bigger families, and we found that we're getting a really wide array of people wanting to go to Battery Park City and back into the city. You know, it all leads into what's been happening over the last 10 years.
But isn't
Drop in
Battery
crime
Park
and
City,
everything
you
else.
know, even though it's Lower Manhattan, Battery Park City, aren't we really it's like different neighborhoods in Manhattan, you know, and I always say this about Harlem. There are 3 Harlems, okay, east, west, and,
Right.
you know, Battery Park City is different than where you are.
It's very different.
Yeah, Battery Park is suburban urban. You know, you walk, it's very comfortable. It's not edgy, it's just comfortable. You come home, you cross the highway, you can breathe, you see the sky, you can see the water. It's a totally different feeling. It's the city, but it's the city light. And you can still walk to Tribeca, and you can still get where you want. You know, our 2 buildings, the other one that we're doing, Ed Minskoff and I at 101, the building known as 89 Murray, which we're developing now, a rental building, is only 2 blocks away. And that's really the
But that's
heart
the
of
other side of the
Tribeca.
highway.
Yeah, it's the heart of Tribeca.
It's
That's the buildings getting Whole Foods, Barnes & Noble, Bed Bath & Beyond. That's going to help really revitalize and change and push that neighborhood really into a new league.
Right, and I think it's going to help Larry's building, and I think it's helping all of your other buildings.
Sure. I mean, I think we're seeing a bit of a crossover where it used to be more prominent where the families would go to Battery Park. But, I mean, we're hearing and we're seeing in buildings that are on the other side, and even like at 20 Pine Street, there are a lot of families with strollers, you know, young couples with strollers and kids, and which we were a little surprised to see that. You know, I didn't expect really in that heart of downtown.
It's a big change.
That you'd see that.
Even the last couple of years since we bought the site, we're seeing many more families. Just there's more activity at night, and you're seeing retailers come down. Retailers that a few years ago wouldn't have dreamed of coming down there.
It's like we spoke about. It's people who would have been on the Upper East Side are now coming down because they want the activity.
But that's what we said just before the show. You're saying that more of, we have in the city, you have the baby boomers, me. You have people close to baby boomers like you. Then you have the guys in their 40s like the 2 of you. And then you have the echo boomers. And the echo boomers, the 20s and 30s. Would you say that a lot of these echo boomers are the people who are really going to Lower Manhattan?
They certainly make up a large percentage in the rental buildings. Not all, but there are a lot of the young 20-year-olds, you know, the 20 to 30-year-old range on the rental side. You know, but they're not buying.
Well, even in our building, I've almost 30% of our buildings bought by people in the 20s. It's hard to believe. I look at the numbers
30%
sometimes. 28%
of the sales have been
28%. Another nearly 30% at 30 years old. And then the bulk is really into the 40s.
Right.
It's an amazing, amazing drive for people to go downtown.
And how many units are under construction in Lower Manhattan today?
Total?
7,000, 8,000.
Yeah.
Right, about 7,000.
And of the 7,000 to 8,000, I mean, Battery Park City, it's over, right?
There's 2 sites left. Milstein's doing 2 on the ball fields. One of those may be a rental, one may be a condo. We don't really know. But the physical build-out, the parks are all done in Battery Park. Everything's really in place. And the demographic has changed dramatically in Battery Park. The comments that we hear from people who live there for 10 years, or people who lived there for 20 years, who lived in Gateway since it was built by Lefrak, they say that the wealth in Battery Park is just extraordinary. They can't understand, they can't believe the amount of wealth in Battery Park compared to 10 years ago.
Right.
You know, it's a different person moving there. It's no longer a price point neighborhood. It's a neighborhood of desire.
It's a choice. It's
Right.
it's a
You know,
choice.
you financed a lot of these conversions. There won't be these conversions anymore. Do you see any more conversions of office buildings? I mean, because the 421Gs have expired,
Right.
and you know the 421As. I don't see that going to happen. I'd say that.
Well, maybe not downtown.
I'm
But-
talking downtown.
Right, downtown. You know, look, there's a push. If you're a creative agency that used to be in the West 30s or so, and you got pushed, right? You got pushed to the West Village or Soho when it was cheaper. Now you're getting pushed to downtown, and the office rents in downtown are going to really start to spike because there's no place to go for these mid-sized firms. And I think you're right. I think the conversion era is over.
Now,
And as a matter of fact, I would tend to think that some of those people are thinking about some of the choices they made on the conversions.
now, what are rents running? What are people paying in rent in downtown?
Well, the ones that are, there's a new project that we're involved in just south of Canal Street, so it's not all the way so close to the City Hall area. They're going to be averaging $63 a foot. But they're today. I mean, some of the other buildings on Wall Street were, probably the high 40s, but that's a year ago.
Right.
I mean, in the past year, there's been tremendous.
I would say in
push.
the immediate area around our neighborhood, I would say it's more in the 55 to close to $60 a
Right.
foot range.
West side of Broadway is a higher price point.
And the absorption is immediate.
So
Yeah.
you're saying that the vacancy factor of rentals in Lower Manhattan for apartments, 5% or less?
3.
Oh,
3%.
I bet you it can't be more than a point.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
gonna
we
say.
Yeah,
you know,
there's
we
no
would
way it's more than a
underwrite
point.
from a lender's perspective at 3%, but the reality is it's
I know,
you're looking
my
at
partner
full.
owns 53 Murray. They're at 99 to 99.5% occupancy.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, our rents are going to
Month-to-month.
be in the 70s at 89 Murray.
Now, what about the amenities? I mean, the Whole Foods is going over there. Gristedes has announced they're opening up where,
Down at 90 Maiden Lane.
which is going to be convenient for you.
Yeah, small supermarket, but still indicative of the fact that retailers need to come in and support the population that's coming in. What we did in our building is we put a lot of the amenities within the building. It's kind of like a vertical cruise ship, right?
So what other amenities are in the building?
We have a half-court basketball court. We have a handball court. We have an outdoor dog run, so people don't have to curb their dogs. We have a 230-car parking garage. We have a restaurant, as I mentioned, that'll deliver upstairs. We have a 45-seat screening room. We have a squash court, full gym, yoga facilities. So really, someone can get up, work out, go 300 yards to Goldman, work all day, come back.
So, but what it sounds to me that, with the exception of the people on the Peter Tears, a lot of the people that you're thinking are going to get are the people who literally live and work downtown.
Yeah, we think it's going to be a large percentage is going to be the local population that has already made the choice and the decision and is opting to stay in that neighborhood because they perceive a neighborhood that's on the rise. If you look at all of the infrastructure that's going in, the billions of dollars that are being spent, your point about office rents going up, this is clearly, and if you just kind of detach it from Manhattan, downtown is a city unto itself.
Yeah, these
It's
people
the
don't
third
work.
largest
These people just
business
don't work
center in
downtown.
the world.
They're working in Midtown. They want to be downtown. The action is downtown.
Right.
I would gather that your people, a great percentage are working in Midtown because that's where all the
Midtown, yeah.
financial jobs are.
Yeah.
There's very few financial jobs downtown.
Yeah, and the transportation is great.
Right.
I mean, with all the subways, so to move
Now,
back
didn't
and
you
forth.
say your son lives downtown?
Yeah, he's in a rental building downtown. So
And how'd he decide to move downtown? The
uh,
subsidy, the extra subsidy?
yeah, I think that played a big role. And but when he was still in school, he was going to school at School of Visual Arts. It's on 23rd Street, and he looked a little bit on the east side. And I knew about some of the buildings downtown. I said, why don't you take a look? And he got a little bit more apartment for the money at that time. And the transportation, subways weren't a problem for him.
But it's also the environment, as you said.
Yeah.
It used to be, 20 years ago, our demographic, that young demographic would be on the Upper East Side. But people are rejecting let's call the sterility of First Avenue or Second Avenue, the cookie cutter sameness of it. The appeal, the nightlife has really shifted downtown. That's where people want to be. I mean, what Andre says is that Houston Street, is what is now the new 57th Street. That's Soho is now Midtown and everything south, and that's why the financial district is the new downtown.
And downtown just needs some arts. It needs a little bit more culture, and I think it's just going to be just an incredible neighborhood.
They have your
And it's
movie
coming.
theater.
Pardon me?
You have your movie theater, you have your DSW, you have your bagel store. I mean, you have your other amenities over there. Now, how much more construction? We have 8,000. Do you see any more construction being built Battery Park, we're limited. What's on the horizon, lender?
Well, it's
what's
tough.
coming?
I mean,
what's coming out to you?
There aren't a lot of available sites there. That's the biggest drawback in terms of. I think the demand is there. I don't think to absorb 7,000-8,000 units is going to be a problem at all, even on top of what you're doing beyond downtown. So the question is, Forest City is looking at a big project, the Beekman area, that deal.
That's being built.
That's being built. So that's going on. Though the bond allocation, I think, was there's some question about the level of bonds that they're going to get, but they'll do it with or without the bonds, and so that's going to get done. And and I'm just trying to think where there's
plenty of neighborhoods still left.
Neighborhoods and stuff to do.
If you look at east of City Hall, that whole area, Beacon Street, that's going to be a spot that moves. Water Street, clearly some of those buildings waterfront, some of those lesser buildings.
What about, speaking
Chambers.
of Water Street, and all the rest, what about the Seaport? The Seaport, has been a failure. Do you see there's been discussion that the Seaport will be raised and made as residential? I saw it in the paper about 2 weeks ago.
Look, it was a success 20 years ago. And then with
Chris,
the
I don't think it was
movement
a
of jobs,
success from day one.
Yeah, it was at least a point of activity. And then when those jobs, with the market decline in '87, those jobs left, and that dried up. And what they've failed to do is keep pace with what people want. It's a really old concept that's not been brought up to date. If they could just bring it up with better restaurants, quality restaurants. People in New York City don't want to eat in a Fridays, and that's the quality of restaurants they have. Their retail shops are awful. So they need a better mix in those stores. And it'll turn around, because now finally the population's there.
Well, and have the residential that was done over by the Fulton Fish Market there, so that's been redone. So I think you're going to get that. Something needs to get done, I think. Certainly will. I think the retail.
So what's the profile? What's the profile of the renter, and what's the profile of the purchaser? In general, besides yours, of what's I heard your property, of what you see going there. Mostly young oriented approach, with the exception.
If you walk in downtown now, there is no typical owner.
I agree with that.
That's what's so great about it. He has buyers, I have buyers. Jamie's seen them in his deals, 20 to 70. It's all over the range, and people want to be
local,
downtown.
domestic, foreign buyers,
everywhere.
European
I
buyers.
signed 2 contracts today from people from Colombia.
Right.
And we are actually making a push to have some global outreach, given the velocity in the marketplace, because we're trying to build an iconic brand. It'll be a skyline building and something that people can point to with Andre's name, and we've gotten Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, people who say, what, we were buying in Miami, Miami's done, there's oversupply, we still want to buy in the U.S., let's buy Manhattan.
And New York's safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the perception of appreciation of value as well.
Here's the question. Take that little ferry and go over to Jersey City. There's a big price differential. No?
There's an old saying, right? It's like camping out, right? So you're either in New York or you're camping out. And there's nothing wrong with New Jersey, but
what are you saying? Half
kids
pregnant
be
and
there.
not pregnant? Something?
No, it's not even that.
There are buyers and renters that want to be in New Jersey for the price, but you're not. I've never experienced.
But as a lender, how's your interest level to do a Jersey City property?
At a basis, fine.
No, there's plenty of demand there, but the kid who would live, or the person, or look, this demographic, this 20 to 60-year-old demographic that we all have in our buildings, they're not going to Jersey City.
Right. They're not going to.
It's someone who's not particularly comfortable with the city.
Right.
They want to come in and experience the city at their level, at their time, at their convenience, and then go home.
What about downtown Brooklyn? Downtown Brooklyn today, there's this new Oro project on Gold Street, the Palin's project, there's some others.
Downtown Brooklyn was Soho 20 years ago.
Downtown?
It's the new hip spot. This is where some of these more artistic younger people. This is where they want to live.
Williamsburg.
But they're not getting a price break now.
No.
And there certainly is not a
No, but
price
$1,400
differential.
to $1,400 that you're talking about. I mean, now
Yeah, they're
when-
800, 900.
Right.
Right.
So we're
Right, but for-
now, but you know, that's the difference. You know, and I hate to bring up this old matter which I've discussed on the show many times. It's nice to talk about these prices, but I have to care about the people who watch my show. These people can't afford it, and
Right.
we have a big problem in Lower Manhattan that we have a lack of available, affordable housing.
Well, we're building 40 units at 89 Murray Street. That'll be open to a lottery. And then we're also building middle income through the mayor's program, where we're catering to people under
tell me about that? Because I think it's
$125,000 a
really
year.
interesting for my viewers
Yeah.
about that.
Well, we have nearly 60 units that rent to people with from $60,000 to $110,000 a year in income. And they'll have a greatly reduced rent. Rent's about $1,600 to $2,100 a month. So I know that's not real cheap, but it's certainly cheap in today's
For a brand new
marketplace.
building with
Right.
all the amenities, with a Whole Foods, with a
It's effectively half price
Right,
Yeah.
when you really cut through it.
And that's, you know, and the mayor's doing this here, and obviously it's happening in Hudson Yards. And probably in some of the other new rezonings, the same kind of break will be instituted.
amenities. One Whole Foods is fine. Other things. When do you see the rest of the services coming in?
I think it's there.
It's there, and more are coming.
Yeah, I think it's there.
You know, you mentioned 15 Broad. Hermes is opening a store there. Tiffany's is opening on Wall Street. The BMW dealership on Wall Street is one of the top dealerships in the country.
Right.
You know,
Right now, I don't know what you would need that you couldn't find south of Chambers.
Since you know, I've been probably the biggest advocate with Ken Swig and others on why I love Lower Manhattan. You know, you're not telling the believer. You know, this is a reality. I think the big perception is, you know, that Lower Manhattan has been the low-cost alternative for offices. It was the low-cost alternative for residential rentals. It was also the low-cost alternative for initially for buying of apartments. So I think you know, things have changed, and I think what you're building is a totally different environment that hasn't been seen in Lower Manhattan. I think what you're doing with this green building, and also because of the location, you know, everything is location. Real estate is location, location, location. You know, in your condo deal, Battery Park City, it's location. You know, it's all key.
But this low cost is good, Mike, because what it's doing is it's bringing in a vibrancy. The low-cost office space is bringing in architects, designers, creative people that weren't downtown before because they got pushed out of Midtown or lower Midtown. And it's terrific. And you know, these younger people are really going to drive downtown.
Hard to believe. 30 minutes have passed, and I'd like to thank everyone who've helped me talk about what's happening in Lower Manhattan residentially. Jamie Merman, Senior Vice President of Helaba Bank, Chris Daly of the Sheldrake Organization, and last but not least, Larry Davis, President of SDS Divestments. See you next week. Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from HSH Nordbank New York branch and First American Title Insurance Company of New York, Perfect Building Maintenance, Greenberg Traurig LP, Allied Partners, the Moynihan Group. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from Antares Real Estate, Arbor Realty Trust, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Essex Capital Partners, Fremont Investment and Loan, Massey Knakal Realty Services, Muss Development LLC, Rosenthal and Rosenthal Inc., Signature Bank, Stonehenge Partners, Swig Equities, the Engel Burman Group, the Wyckoff Group, Titan Capital, YL Real Estate Developers.